Hey guys, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to the podcast where we talk about all the ways to run a better construction business. And I'm excited about our guest today. We're talking about all things construction coaching. We have Liz Chism from Liz Chism Coaching, who's going to talk to us about processes and other ways to improve your business. Good morning, Liz. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? It's a beautiful morning.
Good. Thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. So before we jump into all the things you offer on coaching, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this kind of business.
So yeah, it started way back when I was 9 years old. My dad is a third generation floor covering contractor, and then when I was nine, he started building custom homes, starting with our own, and then he started doing all sorts of custom homes. And as a homeschooler, I could grow to work with him, and so I started working right alongside him. I could plumb a bathroom, tile a floor, and roof a house by the time I was 16. So that's kind of where the construction side came into play. Met my husband and we got into the brewing industry and we started a craft brewery. And obviously, it has nothing to do with construction, but it does have a lot to do with how to run a business. And I was one of those business owners in the brew house. So I was the master brewer and I worked 100-hour weeks. I wore it like a badge of honor. I thought that that was how you grew a business. You got to put in your time, you got to pay your dues, debt to society so that you could be a successful business owner. And reaching burnout, uh, realized that there had to be a better way. And so I started putting systems and processes into place that didn't really help a whole lot. What I needed was an operating system. And that's what I ended up doing and putting into the brewery is an operating system on how things actually ran, which got me down to about 30 hours a week. We were able to start a family. We traveled a lot. We were able to expand and grow our business to multi-millions. So we've definitely were able to see this success while working less, which most people dream of, but never actually get there. And so once we decided to get out of the beer industry and close down our brewery, contractors started coming to me and it's like, okay, construction and you know how to run a business and you know how to go from 100-hour weeks to 30-hour weeks. How do you do it? And so I started coaching contractors on how to put in an operating system as well so that they could get their life back and grow their business.
So, you know, when you give contractor extra time, do they actually know what to do with it, or are they still overwork?
No, they'll still overwork.
I just kind of talk about wanting all this extra time, and then you have extra time, and you're like, what do I do with this extra time?
So I actually just had that same conversation with one of my guys. He's hiring a project manager. And I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do to grow your business now that you got a project manager? He's like, I'm like, okay, let's go through this and figure out the next things that you need to be doing in your business that are high value, high impact, high leverage activities. So that way your project manager can be on the job site. You can stay off the job site because if you're not busy doing something else, you'll go back right into that job site and start meddling with everything and then, go from there.
Absolutely. So we talked about systems and processes. What does that look like in a construction business? What
So
is that? Standard operating procedures.
yeah, so I always go back to like a vehicle because everybody kind of understands that a little bit easier. So if you think about a vehicle, you have your brake system, you have your transmission, which is a system, you have your engine, which is a system. And what happens is all these systems need to work together to make the car run, to stop when it needs to stop, to go when it needs to go. And even with putting in SOPs or standard operating procedures, or even putting in a software program, some type of system, there's still the operations on where does that puzzle piece fit to make your business move in the direction you want it to move. Similar to like, you can't just put a transmission in a car and expect it to go. It also needs an engine and brakes and all the other systems with that. And so if you think about your business like that, you have your marketing system. This is getting more clients. This is or getting more leads. You have your sales systems, which includes your estimating, and that's turning those leads into clients. And then you've got your fulfillment, and your fulfillment needs to continue the loop to create raving fans, to create those repeat business and those referrals. So that way your marketing is running smoothly and your sales are running smoothly and so on and so forth. And so what ends up happening is you may put in some systems or you may put in some software programs, but it's only one little part of your business and your operations are a mess. So then what happens is the owner ends up plugging themselves as these like problem solvers into all these black holes between all the systems, and that's how they end up getting stretched too thin because they're manually following up with leads or trying to follow up with their employees to follow up with leads, and they're manually trying to get some more estimates out or micromanaging how to get estimates out so that way it can run faster and they can get more estimates out and those types of things. And so when you think about your business and how it runs, you need to understand how the operations runs and pull the owner out of it and have the systems run the business by the people running the business instead of the owner being the, I call them the CEO, the chief everything officer.
Absolutely. So, as a business owner, systems and processes sounds like a very overwhelming project. Where do you start?
I always start with cutting. Like, if you think about, a fruit tree outside, what do you do in spring to make it grow? You prune that thing, or even in fall, depending on what it is. In your business, you've got to do a lot of pruning in order to allow growth to happen. So that could happen on the bank statement side. Go through your bank statement and see exactly what needs to be cut. Look at a line item and is like, is this a nice to have thing or is this generating me revenue? Is this making me more money? You can do it on the jobs. What types of jobs are actually making me money? For a guy who does kitchen and baths, maybe focusing on baths is what you need to do. One of my guys did that and his business doubled in 3 months because he wasn't stretched so thin on all these things and he made way more money on baths. He barely broke even on kitchens. And so he just stopped the kitchens, focused on baths, and his business went up. Um, and he always laughs because he's like, Liz was right, like I did less work and I got more money. Like, how is that possible? But it's really cutting out all the extra fat, cutting out the employees that are not going to get you to that next level. A lot of times people hire everyone to, thinking that they're going to grow and then they don't grow, but they never scale back their overhead. And so really going in and saying, okay, what do I need to cut that's going to get me to that next level? What needs to be pruned? What's served me for a while and then now needs to be let go. And so that's where a lot of contractors can get that freed up bandwidth to be able to focus on their operations and focus a little bit more on their business instead of just constantly working in their business. And if you free up 2 to 3 hours a week and focus those 2 to 3 hours on growing your business, you'll see massive change versus if you try to add 2 to 3 hours to your already full list, then you're just going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. So we go and we start by getting things that aren't serving us, that take too much time, aren't making us money. Then where do we start on creating the processes and the systems?
So I actually don't like SOPs as much as I make them for people. I don't like them. I don't think they work. I don't think that they serve the business the way they're going to, they should serve the business. And that's because most SOPs are done in statements and they're snapshots of what you're currently doing. Well, if what you're
Gotcha.
currently doing is going to grow your business, then you don't need SOPs. But most of the time, what people are currently doing is not serving them and it's keeping them stuck where they are. And it's just more of what they've been doing and it's not going to help them grow. And so I switch all of my SOPs to question based SOPs, which means that the outcome or the target is in the question. And it takes a few minutes to switch your brain around this. But when you do, it actually creates the ability to have your employees be involved in creating the processes and having clear outcomes for them to actually achieve. So, for instance, I read somebody's SOP, I don't know, it was months ago, and it was like 89 pages long. It was ridiculous. And one of the things was, this long laundry list of stuff that they needed to do. And one of the items said,
Hmm.
put cones outside by trailer when parked on the street or something to that effect. I'm like, okay, cool, that's great. How many of your guys are actually remembering to do that from reading an 89-page paper? They're not. And then guess who's enforcing that 89-page paper? Who's inserting themselves into that black hole of it not getting done? The owner. So now the owner is the SOP. They become the person making sure everybody's doing what they should be doing because nobody's reading the SOPs that you've spent hours creating. But if you flip this to a question, such as how do we create safe job sites? And you have your employees answer that question, they now remember because your goal is to not put cones out by the trailer. The goal is to have a safe work environment. And so when you flip it to questions and you have the outcome in the questions, you can now have any question you want that's going to solve any problem in your business, and your employees buy into that process because now you're saying, I want a safe work site. What does that look like? And then they come up with the answers. And it
And then how
works.
does that work with your training new people? Because I run a law firm and I have SOPs, and I deal with lawyers who are supposed to read things that don't, right?
Mhm.
And then they're like, "How do I do this?" I'm like, "I have this great manual here that tells you that nobody reads," and then I got to
Exactly.
go. So okay, so you get them divided, but then how do you get other people that are coming under them to do the
So
same
I
thing?
do
Or
document those questions, and a lot of times I work with the owner, so I have libraries of questions. And so I'll pull like, oh, we're working on, a project manager, so I have all my project manager questions. And I have, best practices in there too. So it's like guiding them on how things should be done, or, things that I've learned from working with clients. And when you switch it to questions and you can put it on there, now it's searchable. How do you go and ask ChatGPT something? How do I
yeah,
do X, Y, and Z? It's in a question. How do you do Google? How do I do the X, Y, and Z? How do I do this? How do I grow my business? Like YouTube, how do I? It's all questions that you're asking the search engine. So I just flip it to questions, and it's much easier to search a Google Doc when it's in a question form because you now have the outcome you want, and that's what you're searching for. If I were to
so
go
then
to an SOP that has cones by the trailer, I'm not going to search. Should I put 3 cones by a trailer or should I put 4 cones by a trailer? Like, you're not going to go search that. So it's very difficult to go retrieve that information and find that information versus safety. Oh, there's a whole list of all the safety things about our job site, and one of them is putting cones by the trailer.
Gotcha. So like onboarding, would you like ask them the question, have them answer, and then like insert the things that you do?
So since everything's in Google Docs, I actually just share the Google Doc with them, and then we go through it together. But then it also creates a live working document. So we review those questions. I've asked the same questions to my clients almost every quarter, sometimes every month. And I'm like, okay, now that you've got new information, now that you've learned something, what's different about this? You know,
Hmm.
like your ideal client may change slightly as you're growing your business. Your, values may change slightly. Not that your values have changed, but how you're defining your values have changed. Um, how you have a safe job site could slightly change depending on the type of work you're getting into. For my guy who does, um, the insulation in houses, he has different equipment that they have to wear when they do the spray foam versus if they're just putting in the insulation. And so your answers could change. And so when you have everybody collaborating on the same document, you can actually create notes and everybody can access it from their phone. And so you can just add comments, add extra pieces and stuff. So it's a live working document. So anybody coming in doesn't have to start from scratch answering those questions, but they see all the questions there that they would have asked anyways, or you've rattled off in a 10-minute orientation with them and they don't remember half of what you said. And now they have a place that they can go to and be like, how do I create safe job sites? Here's 10 things. What do I need to wear to show up at the job site? What does it mean to be on time? What does punctuality mean? Those types of things. Now there's the answers to that, and it makes it very important on what that goal is or what that outcome is. And that's really all it is when you have that clear outcome, you now can create the process to reach that. But most people don't have the clear outcome. They just have a lot of busy work because that's what they've naturally done, oh yeah, I throw the cones out by the thing and I do this and I do that. And all of a sudden it's like, but why? Oh, the why is in the question. Now I know that I'm doing this because of X, Y, and Z.
Gotcha. So then how does that work with like onboarding existing team members that are already there to these new systems, these new ideas?
That's where I just ask them questions, because in fact, I usually don't take notes. Like when I'm with my clients, I take notes, but when I'm facilitating with contractors and their team, I'm like, okay, who's taking notes today? Okay, there's the document. Okay, what's the question? And a lot of times I'll have them do like 5 minutes. I'll have like 5 questions and I'll do 5 minutes and then we discuss it. And we end up finding the issues that happen. The other way to collaborate with, employees is what I call the curiosity game. And
Hmm.
that is where you just ask your employees, and I always set a timer. I don't just make it, hey, let's just like think about this for 30 minutes because that's not going to work. But I'm like, hey, 5 minutes, and I want you to write down as many things as you can to finish the phrase, I wonder if we could do X, Y, and Z. Or I wonder how we could put in this process and it would have these results. Or I'm curious about this. You'd be surprised at the ideas and things that your employees have seen, but they have no way to share it with you in a way that's going to help improve the business. And so by playing the curiosity game, you're actually asking them questions about what needs to go on in the business. If you want to, improve a hotel, going to the board of directors is the last thing that you want to do. You go to the bellboy who's doing it all day long, who's seeing everything all day long, and then asking them for their input. And so really just being curious and being like, okay, so what if we stop doing kitchens? What would that look like? I don't know. Maybe it'd be a bad idea. Maybe it'd be a good idea. Let's talk about this, And so really engaging with your team in a collaborative way versus just, okay, do this now, do this now. This is the job. Show up on time, do this. I mean, they get yelled at all day long and they just check out. They show up when they
Hmm.
feel like showing up, or maybe not at all. They kind of do their job. They take an extra long lunch that hopefully you don't, notice that they've clocked out, in and out late, and they go home tired and exhausted, and they're starting to look for another job. And you wonder why there's no workers out there that want to work. They just may not want to work for you.
So in how long should this process take? Like when you like start in sales and move through the rest of it, how long should it take and what does that look like?
So I usually like to hit every point in your business, and there's actually 7 points in your business. So there's sales, and I include estimating in that. There's marketing, fulfillment. I even put in your customer journey, because really crafting what that looks like from your customer's perspective, your team, your numbers, and then your leadership, which is also including your culture. And so I like to hit every single one of those every single month. So in 7 months, you're really focusing on something else in your business. And what a lot of people do is they, okay, I want SOPs, I need systems, and they go and systemize something that's easy to systemize. They go and put in processes or meddle with something that's already working, because there's 4 types of systems in your business. There's the systems that are working and they're doing great, and then there's systems that you're like, this is really frustrating. This is not working. Something's got to change. But you're aware of it. You're cognitively aware that something's got to change. And then where most people are is the systems that are all stuck in their head and they
Mm.
don't know how to communicate it. It's, well, I just do it this way. I don't know why. I will just do it this way. And they don't really know how to communicate it because it's all stuck in their head. And then you have, I call the fourth quadrant, because I have a systems quadrant, I call it the dumpster fire. It's like you don't know what you don't know, and then all of a sudden you open up the can of worms. You're like, oh boy, I didn't realize that we weren't going to do this, And so when you when you look at your business, you want to find either the things that are in your head that you need to communicate and delegate so you can free yourself up, or you need to fix the problems that you're currently aware of. And you always want to go to that most immediate constraint. So, like the other day, one of my guys was like, I need a marketing system. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's build one. And he's like, okay, so I need a marketing system. I'm like, well, what do you want your marketing system to do? I'm asking him all these questions. Come to find out after, about 5 or 10 minutes on a call with him that he didn't need a marketing system. He doesn't have one, but he's getting so many repeat business and referrals that he's booked out till next spring. He does not need a marketing system. What he needs, and the bottleneck in his business, is that if he were to double his business, he doesn't have enough subs to fill in the gaps. And he needs to get a sub list. And so that is what he started working on is, okay, what makes a good sub? What do I want? What are my expectations for a sub? How do I work with a sub so that way I don't have to be at the job site 24/7 and they can kind of self-manage themselves? Like, so we then put in an SOP answering all those questions. And we literally typed out those questions and then answered them. Because you can give that piece of paper to a sub and be like, what do I expect of subs? Here it is.
Hmm.
I expect them to show up 5 minutes early. Not on time is not 10 minutes late. Like what does that actually mean? And outlining it and answering all those questions. And now he's like, okay, I have a sub list. A week later, he's like, I have a sub list 4 deep. I have four subs for every trade to do my jobs. Now I can go focus on a marketing system. Now he has the pieces in place to go focus on something else and double his business. And so always finding that most immediate constraint, that thing that's causing the problems, that if you freed that up, you'd be able to actually, leverage your business a little bit more. That's where you really want to start. And every business is different, but playing the curiosity game will actually help you unlock that.
So, what three systems that you should implement that would make you the most money as a contractor?
So there's getting more clients. So that's marketing. There's the charging more or increasing the value of your business. So if you're also being a handyman and throwing in a light switch at people's houses and then building out a room addition, you want to focus on something that's going to be a higher dollar amount. So you want your average jobs to be increased, and that system could mean raising your prices. Most of the time they're not. It could mean job costing, and it could mean just focusing on different types of jobs, depending on what you're doing. And then the third one is really the fulfillment side of turning in a job that turns your customers into raving fans. Because if you can get the repeat business and you can get the referrals from them, you'll never need to market your business again. Now, obviously, you
Hmm.
will, but
Yeah.
if you think about your business as relying on referrals and repeat business, you will do your jobs differently. You'll communicate with your clients differently. You'll complete the job on time and not just let it drag out for months and months and months. You'll show up on time and those types of things. And so really focusing on those three things can exponentially grow your business without going and writing an entire manual of processes nobody's going to read.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that's the answer until they do it and then it doesn't work. So, contractors been in business a couple of years, is, overworked, overwhelmed, and they come to you. What does that process look like with you? How do you work with them?
So I have something called the contractor operating system, and I go through all of the different types of their business, but I do it in the 5 S's. So the first one is um, cut down your stuff. So it's really just getting rid of everything that's not serving your business. I call it simplify. Really just honing in on the simplicity of what you're doing. And that's honestly the hardest step for anybody to do, because it means saying no to stuff. And we have FOMO. And then the next one is to strategize. And this is to create the plan. Where is that next immediate constraint in our business? What do we need to focus on? What's not working? The easiest thing to do is to focus on the things that are working, to hire the people that do the jobs that we like to do versus hiring people that do the jobs we don't like to do. And so really strategizing, like, how are we going to tackle this? Where are we now? Where do we want to go? And what's the gap in between? So some of it's goal setting, and I love goal setting, but a lot of times we have these massive goals and then we don't know how to bring it down to the micro level of what do we need to do regularly. Then the next one is
Mhm.
systemize. And this is where we systemize your marketing, systemize your sales, systemize your estimating. We ask those questions. I ask them again all the time. And most of the time they change, or a lot of times they don't even know the answer to them. And this is where we find the bottlenecks in their business. Like, oh, you don't know who your ideal client is. Because just saying that somebody with a house and they breathe is not your ideal client. Um, and so we systemize every part. And sometimes we have a full manual that they are like, cool, I've got this manual. And sometimes it's creating just clarity in their business because it's really easy to communicate clarity. You know, Southwest started on the back of a napkin, or so the story goes. And it
Mhm.
was like, we're going to fly here, here, and here. And this is it. This is all we're going to do. It was very simple. And then from there, it grew. And so sometimes it's just creating that clarity, like what are we doing, how are we doing it, and how are we communicating that to each other to get that done. So sometimes it's written documentation, sometimes it's videos. I love Loom for screen recording. I even coach my guys on how to just do a voice recorder in the car on the way to work and talk about their business and what they do and how they do it, because you can take that voice recording and send it to one of your new employees and have them listen to your daily journal for the last month, and now they're caught up to speed on your business and they've had that buy-in. They
Mhm.
believe in what you do and how you do it, and you're not sitting there saying the same stories over and over again to every single person that you're, you know, like bringing on in your business. And then the next one is sustain or create sustainability. And that's where you create the rhythm. You know, there's never should be a time in your business where you put all your systems in place and then you ignore them and go back to running your business. It needs to be part of the fabric of your business. It needs to be how your business, runs. Um, with some of my guys set up like weekly meetings where they go through questions with their guys, like, hey, what's the answer? How do we keep safe job sites? And their employees repeat, this is how we do safe job sites. Like, you go through the SOPs from the question based standpoint, because now they're in questions and it's really easy to have the back and forth with your employees and review those and have them become part of who you are and how you do things. And then the last one is scaling. And really, when you have the first four S's in place, it's just a matter of rinse and repeat. Okay, now you're at another level. What's serving us? What's not serving us? What's working? What's not working? Okay, how do we put a plan into place? What's the obstacles? How do we remove the obstacles? Okay, what system do we need in place to fix that and make it sustainable? Okay, how do we make this sustainable? Okay, now our business is growing. And then you just rinse and repeat it. And so that's basically what I walk my clients through in a coaching level. And then, we also, I write SOPs sometimes for them depending on what they need. And I've even gotten on calls with
Mhm.
their team and done the curiosity game with them just to really create that collaboration, kind of depending what is needed in their business. But for the most part, we go through the 5 S's and we make a business that actually works for them versus a business that has a nice little stack of papers that nobody reads.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about your favorite client success story.
Probably one of my most recent ones. It's a guy, he actually built out basements. And when he first came to me, he was not making a lot of money, didn't understand his numbers, and did anything from basements to handyman work. And thankfully, he got on the very first mastermind call that I host every single week. And I'm constantly asking my guys, okay, what's our next immediate constraint? What is that next thing that we need to do? Because if we can solve one problem every single week, your business will move forward. Cut the fluff, let's solve a problem. And so he's just like, I just, don't have a lot of money. I can't really afford this. I can't do this. And I'm like, okay, in 5 minutes, we went through his job costing, figured out how he could fill in a couple of holes, figured out what he wasn't charging for, and within a week made 7,500 extra dollars. And now that he's
Mm.
focusing on one thing, which is basements and not all this other stuff, he's building out a team and every single job he's raised his prices and he hasn't gotten a no yet. And so it it's honestly partly just the psychology and the confidence to be able to raise your prices and know that you have somebody supporting you behind you to do that, and can help you put in the infrastructure and the operating system to sustain that value that you're giving to the client.
Gotcha. That's pretty amazing. And a lot of it too is like being a business owner and you're in it there's so many things that you don't see because you see them every day, and having a coach perspective be like, oh, what about this, or you could fix it this way. So how often do you meet with your clients typically?
So we do, I call it on demand coaching via email and text. And that's where we collaborate on the actual documents, and I send them questions and they'll answer them as in typing them out, and then I give them feedback and I'm like, you're not answering this. This is like a textbook answer. This is not the answer for your business. So I give feedback on that, and then we meet as a group once a week for a mastermind call.
Gotcha. Very cool. So somebody wanted to find out more about you and more about your coaching, where would they go?
Just lizchism.com. It's pretty
Awesome. Well,
easy.
thank you so much for
LIZ.
taking the time to
Yeah.
be on the show. You have some great information. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Mile High, and hopefully we're not speaking at the same time and I can come see yours. I always love to learn about systems and process as a fellow business owner.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm on one of the VIP sessions in the morning. So,
Awesome. Well, good deal. See you soon. Thanks.
yep, sounds good.